special meditations of the person of intermediate scope, essentially with the analogies of samsara, like an ocean and like a prison, and developing the aspiration to practice the 3 higher trainings to escape from that. Very essential preparations to be able to practice the Mahayana. Then the meditations on the 7 aspects of cause and effect to generate bodhicitta, going up through great compassion, then introducing the verse on equalizing self and others to have a very special development of great love. And then the shortcomings of the self-cherishing thought, the benefits of cherishing others, then 2 verses that synthesize that to the point where one would take as your heart practice at that time the exchange of self and others. And then the famous verse that we recite 3 times, originally having only 4 verses, but because of its importance, originally having only 4 lines, and later 1 line was added by a great Rinpoche who was the disciple of the Panchen Lama. Panchen Lama gave his blessing for that, which is essentially the practice of Tonglen. And then the verses, some of the other verses from the mind training, how to take the adverse conditions into the path, and a verse on the 5 forces, which is the sort of the condensation of the practice in one lifetime, and always to have a blissful mind. A verse on the 4 applications, trying to, purifying negative karma, creating virtue, making offerings to the spirits and offerings to the Torma, offerings to the Dharma protectors. And then a verse on how to join taking and giving Tonglen on the breathing, and that coupled with the actual meditation on fully qualified bodhicitta, so that you develop, the exceptional thought, laksam it's called, or universal responsibility. And in the next, then realizing that only a Buddha can fulfill the aim of that special thought, developing the thought of, I must achieve enlightenment for the sake of sentient beings, fully qualified bodhicitta, wishing bodhicitta. And then to take, recognizing that alone is not enough, to take the vows, the bodhisattva vows, and engage in the 3 Mahayana aspects of morality, abstaining from negative actions, collecting virtuous dharmas, benefiting sentient beings. Then the verses on the 6 perfections, generosity, special method to enhance the mind of giving without attachment by imagining your body and merits and so forth, possessions as wish-fulfilling gems, verse on ethics, verse on patience, where especially not only not retaliating when harmed by others, but actually working for their benefit. Verse on enthusiastic perseverance, where we have try to overcome the sense of inadequacy or frustration, with the enormity of working for sentient beings over incalculable eons, even if we had to remain in fire for each and every one of them. A verse on the perfection of dhyana, of concentration, especially aimed at emptiness, taking that as your main object, supramundane. And then a verse on the perfection of wisdom, through analysis, developing the pliancy of body, the pliancy of say the pliancy of mind, the pliancy of body, the bliss of the pliancy of body, the physical pliancy, and the bliss of the mental pliancy, so that you had within the context of the union of Shine and Lakton, of tranquil abiding and special insight, using that to analyze emptiness. And then a verse on the post-meditation on emptiness, trying to see all of the inner and outer phenomena, things that conjoin with our consciousness, our body and our mental faculties and so forth, our mind, and all of the outer phenomena as like illusions, maybe like TV, movies, like dreams, and like the appearance of a moon in a lake. These are just three of the I think usually what they say 12 or 14 examples that the Buddha gave about emptiness, which also are applicable later in other things in Tantra. And then a verse on the special quality of the Madhyamaka, Nagarjuna's intention, which Lama Tsongkhapa tried to explain as the non-contradictory nature of emptiness and conventional reality, so that one actually supports the other, that they are not alternatives, but they actually imply one another. And then a verse that we did last time on the general verse on Tantra, Dena Durje Zimpe Depongi, Dinle Gute Gatso Jingelte, Murup Sawa, Damsik Dompanam, Sukle Chepa Zimba Jingilo. Grant me blessings to keep the samayas, the commitments, and the vows of secret mantra that I've taken to cherish them, to hold them more dear than my own life. Sometimes talks about more than your eyeballs. Protect them, because they are the root of all the cities, and that having taken initiation through the kindness of our Vajra master, the Dorji Zimba, to enter into the ocean of the tantric sets. What does it say here? The ocean of Tantra. So, Gyude. So, day usually means kind of Pitaka. So, the tantric Pitaka, all of the enormous amounts of Tantras due to the kindness of our Guru taking that. The entryway to that, of course, is to take the initiation and empowerment. And then we also talked last time about the verse on the generation stage of Hayus Yoga Tantra. It's not as though the lower tantras are demeaned here. It's just that with a certain amount of almost implied, the lower tantras, the Kriya, Charya, Yoga tantras, implied in the previous verse about the kindness of the Vajra master, and now especially the generation stage and completion stage of Hayas Yoga Tantra, these two verses, Keshi Badu Gyawe Kusumdu Gyure Rimpa Dampo Neljogi. So the yoga, the first stage yoga, Rimpa Dampo. So that when we say there are two stages to Hayas Yoga Tantra, the imaginative stage, or what we usually call the generation stage, Kerim. And so that here it's poetically called, well, it's sometimes called the initial stage, which is the transforming of the ordinary through imagination, the transformation of the ordinary death, intermediate state, and rebirth into successively the Dharmakaya. When you meditate on the death evolution, when you come to the clear light, imagining that you have achieved the Dharmakaya. And then from that, with the slight movement of the wind, imagine arising as the Sambhogakaya, which is transforming the ordinary intermediate state. And then imagining taking rebirth in a womb as the deity, which is the transformation of the ordinary rebirth into the Nirmanakaya. So we talked about that. And then we began to talk, we mentioned last time also the next verse, Ninge dapke duti utaktu gonkyo shabset kopa lejongwa usel guru zundu jukbe lam seder ngundur gyua jingilop. So very concise, talking about the completion stage of highest yoga tantra. So just to get a little bit, to talk about the practice of highest yoga tantra, you have to have had an empowerment, and I imagine that some of you have not had such. So what we're talking about here is essentially just the names and a general outline. So the special feature of the generation stage is to try to develop the clear appearance of oneself as a deity, not just the outer deity, but oneself arising in the aspect of a deity, by meditating on the emptiness of the self, that the ordinary sense of oneself that we grasp onto, that we believe into, that we grasp to, that does not exist the way that it appears. It's actually empty of existing the way that it appears to us as somehow inherently existent. So using the death evolution, when in that final stage of clear light, trying to have brought to that stage an understanding of the meaning of emptiness. So the sense of self is gone, but the sense of an inherently existent self is gone, but arising with the intention to benefit sentient beings in the aspect of a deity, to benefit them. And that is used especially in highest yoga tantra in the generation stage to develop tranquil abiding. In fact, some lamas, Tibetan lamas, say that almost all of the Tibetan lamas that have developed Shine and Lakton, we say tranquil abiding and penetrative insight or vipassana, almost all of them have used this the method through highest yoga tantra. So meditating on one's body, the aspect, holding it single-pointedly, and then within that, also analyzing the appearance as actually being empty of inherent existence. That is the development of vipassana within that. And because of the special feature of highest yoga tantra, where you scan the body from top to bottom and out into the mandala and so forth, analyzing it, that particular method brings about a more rapid development of tranquil abiding and penetrative insight, because you are actually expanding the winds, bringing them back within this context, and also accumulating a great deal of merit through the practice of Tantra, keeping your vows and so forth. So having that clear appearance of the body and analyzing it as empty of inherent existence, developing the divine pride of being the deity, alternating between the clear appearance and the divine pride and meditating on them both as being empty of inherent existence. That's the special features of the generation stage. When you can keep the whole mandala of the deity and yourself, in with all of the, even to see it's like my eyes are, I don't know if you can see my eyes or if they're bloodshot or not. If you can even see the bloodshot eyes of all the deities, hold that for many hours. That's said to be the gross generation stage. If you can keep all of them, the whole mandala visualized within the size of a mustard seed, the whole mandala, everything, and see everything clearly, that's said to be the demarcation of the subtle generation stage. So probably most of us, that's a long way off, but maybe it's something you can imagine. The completion stage is now when we no longer imagine this, we actually cause these things to occur. And it is necessarily preceded by the generation stage, where you try to have developed tranquil abiding, penetrative insight, clear appearance of yourself as a deity, and the divine pride of being that deity, so that you can hold it without losing it. Then there's said to be in Nagarjuna's famous text, I think Panchakrama, the 5 stages of the completion stage. Sometimes we can add it, as Aryadeva and others added, a 6th stage. Usually the 5 stages of the completion stage are called isolated speech, isolation of speech, or isolated speech, isolated mind, illusory body, clear light, and union. It's the 5th over here. Union. If you add also isolation of body to that, we get 6 stages. So this is just numerical. So essentially, isolation of body begins when when you've reached some stability in the generation stage, and you begin to try to bring the airs into the central channel in reality through either tumo or meditating at your heart chakra on the deity there. When you can cause the winds to enter, abide, and dissolve into the central channel, that's kind of like the meaning of the isolation of body. Isolation of speech is an enhancement of that to open up the knot, the chakra at the heart chakra, the knots that go around it, the 2 side nadis that go around it there, through what's called the Vajra recitation, and also enhancing, bringing the airs into the central channel. Then you can develop what's called the isolation of mind, where you actually have the airs entering into the central channel, into the subtle drop there, and the clear light experience that you have through the death evolution, actual absorbing of the elements taking place in your meditation. It's called the example clear light. Exemplary is a different word. I thought some author translated it as the exemplary clear light. It sounds like that's usually the word exemplary means that which is held as ideal, but it actually means the example clear light, because it's the clear light then that is capable of meditating on emptiness by means of a mental image. From that state, if you can develop that state, what's called the ultimate example clear light in the isolation of mind, if you count 6, it would be the 3rd stage, or the 2nd stage if you count 5. From that point on, you're almost assured of achieving enlightenment that lifetime, because when you arise from that clear light in the reverse order, you will arise in what's called the impure illusory body. And as you continue to meditate and bring the airs into the central channel, continuing to meditate on that, you can achieve what's called the the meaning clear light. That is to say, an example always is an example of some meaning, some intended aim, So the meaning clear light is actually what you're actually imagining at that time is what was appearing to you via a mental image is emptiness. You are realizing it, but not directly. When you have the direct realization of that, that's called the meaning clear light. And when that fades, when the winds begin to go through the reverse order from that, you arise in the pure illusory body. And then you train in what's called union. So when we talk about 5 stages, we talk about isolated speech, isolated mind. What did we say? Illusory body, clear light. So the clear light is when you have the meaning clear light. Then you arise in the next stage, what's called union of learning. You arise in the pure illusory body, and you try to unify the 2 truths. And then the result of that, after a long period of time, is graduation. It's called the union of no more learning. That is the result of those 5 stages, Buddhahood, through the tantric path. So it's worthwhile knowing these things, even if you have not received an empowerment, to know the general outline of where you might be going. And if you have received initiation, to study those things and to try to actualize them. So in this verse, when it says in verse 111, Ninge dapke duti utaktu, in the very center of the 8 petals. I seek your the clear line, 8 petals. In the very center. Well, here it just says in the 8 petals, but in the commentaries, when it says utaktu, it means in the very center of the 8 petals. That means in the central channel at the heart chakra, which generally we consider has 4 main doors, but immediately separating into 8. So they're called petals, the nadis that come out from there, the channels that come out from there. In the very center of that, imagining the deity there in the very center there. So we imagine calling upon the blessings of the Guru to come and enter into that to bring inspiration. So that's what's meant by placing your feet, my savior, or my gon, the nata, my leader, into the very center of the 8 petals of my heart chakra. Does it say here at the very center of my central channel? Yeah, the very center of my central channel. So that's the duti utaktu. So through practicing in that way, you can develop isolation of body, isolation of speech, isolation of mind, and then in that isolation of mind, you will have what's called the example clear light. And that will, when that actually becomes so that's the first one, usel, clear light. Then when you have developed that example clear light, the ultimate example clear light, and arise from that, you'll have the illusory body, this is called, because that's arisen from the example clear light, that gyulu, illusory body, is the impure illusory body of the 4th stage, if you talk about 5 stages, of the third stage, if you talk about 5 stages. Then meditating again and again on emptiness, developing the 4th stage, the meaning clear light, and then the zungdu jukpa means union. That's the 5th stage. So you can take it here, it takes it as the path uniting clear light and illusory body, or you can take it as clear light illusory body, and union, the last three stages of that. Seidir Ngundu Gyurwa Jingilo, please grant me blessings to reveal this, to manifest this in this very life. So through the practice of highest yoga tantra, it's possible to achieve enlightenment in one very short lifetime of this degenerate age. So as we do this prayer daily, when we do the meditation of the perfect human rebirth at the beginning, we can think, oh man, this lifetime I can develop real renunciation, bodhicitta, wisdom of emptiness. I can practice the generation stage and develop, the divine pride and clear appearance of being the deity. And on the basis of that, having received initiations and so forth, practice the completion stage and actually achieve enlightenment in this very lifetime. So all of the verses can reinforce one another. Last time we also talked about, I just introduced a little bit the next verse, the POA, which is transference of consciousness at the time of death. There is a kind of transference of consciousness in the 6 yogas in Avaropa, which takes place not at the time of death, but is said in the commentarial tradition that ability to transfer your consciousness into another body doesn't help you at the time of death. This is the transference of your consciousness near the time of death, out of the body, so that you can actually force it to a pure land rather than shaking the dice. Say, for instance, there's a doubt that you might be born in the lower realms, or with a very not having, for instance, even born as a human again, maybe not having continuity of your realizations. So it says, Lamna masin chiwe duchena, at the time of death, if we have not completed the points of the path, Lamna mazin, it's an expression in Tibetan that means not having completed the essential points of the path. That means, in this context, it means if you haven't developed the ultimate example, clear light, that we would say in the 3rd stage of the 5 stages, so that you can recognize at the time of death the 8 signs and actually achieve enlightenment at that time, then the best thing to do here is to try to unify the tantric method of transference of consciousness with the sutra method of transference of consciousness, which is applying the 5 forces at the time of death. And you may remember I mentioned last time, but also there was a question when we talked about the 5 forces during the explanation of the training of the mind earlier, Lojong. Someone said, well, what about how do you apply them at the time of death? And I said, well, it'll come later. So here, through the instructions of correctly applying the 5 forces, and so I think I don't agree with this translation so much. Tobna Yangdak Jawe Damnaki, by the instruction of perfectly joining the 5 forces, Tobna, with Powa, Dakbe Shindu Joa Jingilop. Grant me blessings to progress to the pure realm, to a pure realm. So, Sentap Sangya Lame Poani. This is the part that I don't agree with the translation here. Sangya means, Sentap means a very special, forceful method. Sangya means to become Buddha. Lama here doesn't mean the guru. He says, or the guru's transference, the forceful means to attain enlightenment. They're 2 different things that you're joining. It's here, it says applying the 5 forces, or it's actually joining the five forces, which is the sutra method, the peaceful method, to prepare oneself to have a higher rebirth. And when it says here, Lama, the commentaries say this doesn't mean the guru, like the guru's transference. Lama here is talking about higher. Like when we talk about the definition, the etymology of Lama, like Lama Yeshe or Lama Kunchok or something, Lama is the Tibetan translation of guru. Guru etymologically in Sanskrit means heavy, heavy with qualities. I used to joke in the hippie days, we say, oh man, he's heavy. That means like, really weighty, right? So Lama also means higher, like in the confession prayer of the 35 Buddhas, in the Three Heap Sutra, we say, I dedicate it to that which is higher than the higher than, and so forth. And like Lana Mepa and Lama also means higher. So it means transferring your consciousness to a higher state than might otherwise be, within which you can, in a pure realm, achieve enlightenment sangya in that lifetime. Now, the pure realms, you may have heard, there are different kinds of pure lands. There's Sutra pure lands and Tantric pure lands. Some of the pure lands, before entering into them, people do it as a respite, like to be born in Tushita or something, with the plan to soon after having been there for some time, like a vacation or rest, then to take rebirth again, because in the human realm, compared to, let's say, Tushita, as I understand it, you can achieve enlightenment more quickly in the human realm because of the 6 elements that we have, the elements that we derive from our father and mother, which allow us to practice highest yoga tantra. These do not necessarily exist in the pure realms, pure lands. So in some of the pure lands, they do exist, like the Vajrayogini pure land, the Haruka pure land, and so forth. Whereas I think in Tushita or Amitabha's pure land, they may not exist. And so one might take rebirth into the human realm. Although if you remain in that pure realm, you will achieve enlightenment eventually over a long, long period of time, perhaps. Whereas taking rebirth again from there, having received teachings and blessings, be revitalized and so forth, you take rebirth in the human realm, especially to develop compassion and to develop the correct view of emptiness more quickly. Whereas in some of the pure lands, like Vajrayogini's pure land and so forth, especially if you you enter that with this very body, in this very body, you will have the elements there, and you can practice highest yoga tantra there. So it's a little bit of almost, I think, in my own mind, when I think to make prayers to be born in the Pure Land, I'm thinking to be born there for some time, and then with the intention of coming back quickly, having been revitalized and received teachings and blessings, to develop compassion, bodhicitta, and the right view of emptiness within the human realm, maybe the next life, again, going there. So lamna mazin jiwe tuchena, at the time of death, if I've not completed the essential points of the path, it means not having achieved the ultimate example, clear light, joining Jarwe Damnak, but with the oral instruction of perfectly joining the five forces along with the transference of consciousness to a higher realm in which I can achieve enlightenment, such as a pure realm. Grant me blessings to progress to a pure realm. So at that point, you can actually perhaps practice, if you've received teachings of transference of consciousness, you can apply them then. I think generally I think most of the transference of consciousness instructions require having received it from a guru. Certainly the Vajrayogini special instructions can only be given to very few people at the same time. So then we come to the next verse. Dorna keshin kewa tamche du gompo kyoki delme jesune kusun tuki sangwa kunsenpe seki tuor gyurwar jingilo. In the last line, seki tuor, tuo means foremost. And seki means son, literally, or you can take it generally to mean child. The foremost son or child. Here it says your chief disciple. So why would we pray to be born as our guru's chief disciple? Here it says, in short, I seek your blessings, my natha, here it says savior. Earlier it said protector, means my guide. I grant your blessings to be guided, to be, and here, Jason and Jesung means to be cared for by you, my guide, from birth to birth, Keishin Kewa, again and again, in all my lifetimes, may I never be separated from you and always be cared for you. And here it says, and having been cared for you, may I hold all of the secrets of your body, speech, and mind, all of the qualities, and become your foremost say. Like the say is what we talk about, the epithet of the bodhisattvas. We say the Galway say, or the Jina Putra, the children of the conqueror. So in this context, I wanted to read you a little section from, can you read it correctly? I'm not sure if it's reversed on your screen. The Great Disciples of the Buddha. This is a Wisdom Publications by Jnana Ponika Tera and Helmut Hecker, edited with an introduction by Bhikkhu Bodhi. You all heard Bhikkhu Bodhi. So this is talking about Shariputra. Shariputra was considered to be the Buddha's foremost disciple. There are two. The Buddhas always have two foremost disciples. In this case, Shariputra was foremost in wisdom. Mahamoggallana was foremost in riddhi, in psychic powers. Just the same as Lama Tsongkhapa had two foremost disciples, Gyaltsab and Kejukje, which were sort of analogs to the Buddha's two disciples, Shariputra and Mahamoggallana. So there's on page 11, if you happen to have this book, about halfway down the page, there's a particular legend about how Shariputra became the foremost disciple, the Seki tool. So this word foremost, the Buddha mentioned to many of the disciples, you are foremost in this, you are foremost in this. Shariputra was said to be foremost in wisdom. As I said, Mahakashapya was foremost in ascetic practices and so forth. So at ABC, I'm sure you have, if Lama Zopa hasn't already said, that Hapching is foremost in raising money or being center director, or, Venerable Fred is foremost in this or that, and so forth and so on. So this particular legend unfolds one incalculable period and 100,000 eons in the past. So a countless great eon and 100,000 of the intermediate eons in the past. At that time, the being who was to become Venerable Shariputra was born into a rich Brahmin family and was given the name Sarada. At the same time, the future Moggallana was born into a wealthy household family and was named Shirivardhana. So they became close friends, and they probably had been friends for many lifetimes before that. I'll skip some of the verses just to the important part here. At that time, the Buddha Anomadasi, the 18th Buddha, counting back from present Gautama, from Shakyamuni, 18 Buddhas before, had arisen in the world. One day, on emerging from meditative absorption, the Buddha Anomadasi cast his net of knowledge out upon the world and beheld the ascetic Sarada, who was the previous incarnation of Shariputra, and his retinue, realizing that a visit to his community would bring great benefits to many beings. He left behind his monks and journeyed to their hermitage alone. So at the end of the week, this Buddha remained in concentration on cessation, which is a particular kind of meditation, for, I think, a week. And all this time, the previous incarnation of Shariputra was holding a canopy above his head. To honor the Buddha, the ascetic Sarada took a large canopy of flowers and, standing behind the Blessed One, held it over his head. The master entered the attainment of cessation, the cessational absorption, Nirodha Samapatti, the meditative state wherein perception, feelings, and other mental processes utterly cease. He remained absorbed in this state for a full week, while throughout the entire week, Sarada stood behind him, holding aloft the canopy of flowers. So if any of you have ever held up the Sog offering for Lama Zopa when he goes into absorption or something, you can imagine you were kind of like that. He was holding this for the whole week. At the end of the week, the Buddha emerged from the attainment of cessation and requested his two chief disciples to give talks to the community. So this was not Shariputra, and they were just ascetics at this time. When they had finished speaking, he himself spoke, and at the end of the discourse, all the ascetic pupils of Sarada attained arhatship and asked to be admitted into the Buddha's order of monks. Sarada, which was previous Shariputra, however, did not attain arhatship, nor any other stage of sanctity. For as he listened to the discourse of the chief disciple, Nisaba, who was a disciple of this Buddha at that time, he was one of the two disciples, and observed his pleasing deportment, the aspiration arose in his mind to become the first chief disciple of the Buddha in the future. Thus, when the proceedings were finished, he approached the Buddha, Anomadasi, prostrated himself at his feet and declared, "Lord, as the fruit of this act of homage, I perform toward you by holding the canopy of flowers over you for a week. I do not aspire for rulership over the gods, nor for the status of Mahabrahma, nor any other fruit, but this, that in the future I might become the chief disciple of a fully enlightened one." And the Buddha thought, will his aspiration succeed? Of course, he's omniscient. He knew it would succeed, but he takes the aspect of searching into the future, and he said this aspiration of yours will not be barren. That means it will bring fruit. In the future, after an incalculable age and 100,000 eons, a Buddha by the name of Gautama, that means Shakyamuni, will arise in the world, and you will be his first chief disciple, the marshal of the Dharma, named Shariputra. So also Mahamoggallana made offerings to that Buddha and requested that he become the second great son or foremost disciple of the future Buddha, and that was supposedly the karma that was the cause of that. So here in this verse, Savior, please grant, oh no, what is that? Yeah. In short, I seek your blessing, my Savior, to be guided by you from birth inseparably through all my lights, and thus to become your chief disciple, holding every secret of your body, speech, and mind. So maybe you can get an understanding. Not only is this requesting to be guided from life to life inseparably by our Guru, the Buddha, but to eventually take the aspect of being the chief disciple, foremost disciple, and which had great meaning, great benefit. Shariputra and Mahamoggallana were able to benefit the Sangha, give guidance, how to follow the Buddha and so forth. There's said to be many great benefits to be the foremost disciple. So then we go to the next verse. Gonkyo Kangdu Ngompa Sangye. So Ngompa Sangye means Samyaksam Buddha. When you become a fully enlightened Buddha, that means we think of our Guru as already fully enlightened, but it means when you manifest this to the world, Korki Tokma Nidu Dagyurte. May I be foremost among your very first circle of disciples, wherever you manifest Buddhahood, so that all my temporal and ultimate wishes without exception may be effortlessly and spontaneously fulfilled. I think here it says foremost here, but usually we talk about foremost as tuo. This means slightly different. This means, for instance, when Maitreya comes in the future, may I be among the first of your disciples, of your retinue. And when we take the Mahayana precepts, we actually pray that in the future, by the force of that, Maitreya said that you will be born amongst the first of his disciples. So I think that's what is Korgi Togma here means, as opposed to the foremost, meaning of the two disciples in the previous verse. And so doing in the future, all our nekap, that means our temporal, and tartuk means final desires, ultimate wishes, without exception, malupa, be effortlessly and spontaneously fulfilled. So these are two kind of verses of prayer, having meditate on all of the verses of the Lamrim. Now the next verse is the absorption of the merit field to receive inspiration. Oftentimes we recite this very quickly, but when you do meditation, this is something you can do slowly. So you imagine the whole merit field, such as behind me here. You've seen this, right? I put this up a little. Can you see it? All of the merit field becomes very bright. Again, you've been meditating on this all throughout your glance meditation, and all throughout Lama Chupa from the very beginning when you first generate this merit field. So we have the wish-fulfilling tree. Upon that is a throne. And upon the throne are the various levels of the lotus. At the very top, Lama Tsongkhapa. And then above Lama Tsongkhapa in space, the lineage gurus around him. So you imagine Lama Tsongkhapa's holy mind sends out light rays and causes the whole thing to become very, very clear again. So you try to see all of the deities that you've visualized, maybe in the back of your mind, or very, maybe not clearly, you just sort of thought they were there. All of this becomes very clear. So Detar So Atape Lama Chok, having made requests in this way, here it says, having been thus entreated, Supreme Guru, Lama Chok, Jingi Lapchir. So here it says Supreme Gurus. I think it's talking about the main guru, because when everything absorbs, everything will absorb into Lama Tsongkhapa. Lama Tsongkhapa will come to the crown of your head. Maybe he absorbs to Shakyamuni at his heart, into Vajradhara at his heart, and you can do various things. So here, I don't think it's plural. In Tibetan also, it just says Lama Chok's Supreme Guru. Jingi Lapchir, in order to bless, means me, Geishin Chiwarjon, happily come to the crown of my head. Laryang Ninge Peme Zedrula. Laryang means again, because we have, when we did the verse on the completion stage, we imagined the guru coming to our heart. Ninge, the heart, Pema, the lotus of my heart, Zedrula, on the corolla, that means the very center of the lotus. There are some pistils, corolla there. Imagine that the guru is going to come there. Shapsen Ochak Tempa Shuksuso. Shapsen is a honorific Tibetan term. Actually, I think it kind of means like toenails, but it's honorific for feet. So your radiant feet, set your radiant feet firmly at the corolla of my lotus heart. Shapsen Ochak, Tempa Shuksuso, firmly. So what happens is that you imagine all of the offerings in space absorb into the tree. The tree absorbs into the first level of the lotus. Actually mentions this in the commentaries. So I'll read a little bit from a page from Gelek Rinpoche's commentary on this. Before you dissolve the supreme field of merit, you should once again look more closely at it. Everything is very bright. Lama Losam Tugbang Dorje Chang, the Yidams, the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Dakinis, Dakinis, Arhats, Dharma protectors. Look at them once again, acknowledge everyone, and make a strong prayer. What causes that bright view of the supreme field of merit? With the blessings of Losam Tugbang Dorje Chang, this is the aspect of Lama Tsongkhapa with Shakyamuni at his heart, and at his heart, Vajradhara. In the Lama Chupa Puja, it doesn't mention so much Shakyamuni at his heart, which is at the heart of Lama Tsongkhapa is Dorje Chang, and at his heart, the syllable Hun, right? But in the Jorcho, the preliminary practice, and others, when it gives more elaborately, it talks about this triple being. Lobsang, Tubang, Dorje Chang means Lobsang Drapa, Lama Tsongkhapa. Tubang means the Munindra, Buddha Shakyamuni at his heart, and Dorje Chang means Vajradhara at his heart. So with the blessings of Lama Losang Tubang Dorje Chang, who is the supreme field of merit, you went through and completed the entire practice. Because of this, Lama Losam Tubang Dorje Chang is very pleased and sends out strong light rays from his heart that illuminate the entire field of merit, including the offerings. All the offerings now finally dissolve up into the tree. The tree dissolves into the lion throne. So where is it? My throne here. The throne, including the four directional protectors, dissolves into the level of the protectors. So the four directional protectors, can you see, are here. They dissolve into this level of the protectors, which is the lowest level, along with the lotus. The protectors and the lotus pendles they are standing on dissolve into the dakas and dakinis, which are right above them. They, along with the lotus petals, dissolve into the Shravakas. They, along with their lotus petals, dissolve into the Pratika Buddhas. They, along with their lotus petals, dissolve into the Bodhisattvas. The Bodhisattvas and their lotus petals dissolve into the Buddhas, the 35 Buddhas and the 1,000 Buddhas of this eon and so forth. The Buddhas, along with their petals, dissolve into the lowest of the Tantra, the Kriya. The Kriya and their petals dissolve into the Charya, into the Yoga Tantra, into the deities of highest Yoga Tantra. The eastern of those Mahayana deities, which are just below the four main yidams in the four directions. We have Yamantaka and Heruka and Guya Samaja, the three main deities that Lama Tsongkhapa practiced, along with Hevajra, which is the source of the Tumo teachings on the four directions. So of the Mahayana deities, the eastern ones dissolve into Yamantaka, the southern ones dissolve into Guya Samaja. I say east, the front dissolve into Yamantaka, southern ones dissolve into Guya Samaja, the western ones behind dissolve into Hevajra, and the northern ones dissolve into Heruka. If you have visualized their lineages, they all dissolve into their respective mandalas. Of those of the Yamantaka lineage, all of those of the Yamantaka lineage dissolve into your own root master, because Lamas in this practice of Lama Chopa, usually Lama Tsongkhapa is considered to be the emanation of the Yamantaka. The Guya Samaja lineage dissolve into the vast lineage lamas. The Hevajra and Heruka lineages dissolve into the lamas of the deep or profound lineage. So when we talk about the vast, that means the lineage associated with Maitreya, and the profound means the lineage associated with Manjushri. The four groups of lamas each dissolve into their principal lama. The Mahamudra lineage into Vajradhara on top, the vast lineage into Maitreya, the profound lineage into Manjushri, the masters into your root master. Those dissolve into the central principal lama, Lamas Losang Tuba and Dorji Chang, with the three beings. That means the outer being, the commitment being, and the samadhi being at his heart, which is in this case Vajradhara. Dorji Chang. Then Lama Losam Dorji Chang, Tuwang Dorji Chang comes to the crown, faces the same way you do. On your crown, the outer Lama Losang Dorji Chang, Lama Losang dissolves into Buddha Shakyamuni, who dissolves into Buddha Vajradhara. So that you just have at the end just Vajradhara on your crown. And you can do Poa or the completion stage practices here. Or you can imagine that he comes down and comes to your heart where you do the completion stage practices. Or you can just meditate on union with the Guru. All of these various manifestations of the Guru, which were here in the merit field, all of them having been emanated from Lama Tsongkhapa, in the form of Losang Dorje Chang, Losang Tubang Dorje Chang, all of them bringing all of the blessings, all of the knowledge of the hearer's path, the Pratyeka Buddha's path, the Tantras, the Buddhas, and all of the wisdom and extensive deeds, lineages, all of that knowledge comes down to your heart. Dorje Chang comes down through your central channel, through your throat chakra to the heart chakra, and absorbs to your subtlemost mind there. And you can just meditate for some time on that blessing. Everything's okay. You know, you have the Buddha nature, all of the transient worries of this lifetime, money and friendships and loves and hatreds and competition and jealousy and, you know, worry about COVID and politics, everything else, just into emptiness, into the clear light, into your Buddha nature. Through becoming one, you experience tremendous joy and happiness, which automatically, simultaneously perceives emptiness, the wisdom of emptiness, and you develop a bliss void within you. That is how you obtain the blessings, and that's how you remain. So I think they're quite beautiful. So that verse, when we do pujas, we often recite it quickly. But when you do it in meditation, you can imagine that, you know, light comes out, everything becomes more clear. If you have a picture of the field, remind yourself what it looks like and imagine the dissolution into Lama Tsongkhapa, who comes to your crown. The outer body of Lama Tsongkhapa dissolves into his heart, Shakyamuni. That dissolves into his heart, Vajradhara, and little miniature Vajradhara, maybe the size of your fingernail, your thumbnail, made of light, goes through your crown chakra without any obstruction, without feeling, oh, you know, how is he going to fit? Just comes down and lights on the lotus petals of your heart, and your subtlemost mind there becomes one with your Guru. Teta soa tape lama chok, chingilap shikeshin jiwarjon. So very happily he comes to the crown of your head to bless you. Laryang ninge peme zedula shapseno chak tempo shuksu. So please come to the heart. Set your feet firmly there. So having meditated on that for some time, then the final two verses are dedication of merits. Dita gipe namka geweyang dusum deshek seche tamcheki sepa munlam malu drupadang lungtok damcho simpe guru no. Here is guru. I remember when we were in Italy one time when the monks, they always used to say guru. So like, I dedicate to the guru, and this is guru. This means as causes, guru. In this way, ditar, like this, gipe namka geweyang. Also the virtues, the completely pristine virtues, which were created like this. Here it says whatever. I don't know where they get whatever. The important word here is also, because we've dedicated the merits at various points in the sadhana. Certainly at the end of the 7 Lum Puja part of the Lama Chopa, you've dedicated the virtues before, but now again, you dedicate them to the Dusum Deshek Seche Tamche Ki Sepa Monlam Malu Drupanang, that I might accomplish Drup, Malu without exception, the activities, the Zepa, and the Munlam, the prayers of all of the Sugatas. Deshek Seche means along with their children, the sons. So it means that all of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, their activities. So, you know, the Buddhas, the teaching Buddhas always have 12 deeds, 12 zepa chuni. And the Munlams, like the great prayers of Samantabhadra and so forth, promises, you might say, may I achieve them, and I dedicate these virtues also as causes to hold, Zimpa, the holy Dharma, Damcho, of scripture and realization. So when we study Abhidharma, in other places also, we talk about all of the Dharma, all of the holy Dharma can be included into two categories: the scriptural realizations, or the scriptural Dharma, and the realizational Dharma. So the scriptural Dharma means, to have the lung, to hold the lung, like Lama Zopa holds the lineages of the oral transmission of so many sutras and practices. That requires you to understand the meaning of the words, but not necessarily to realize them, but to be able to transmit them to others so that they can practice them. And Tokpa means realizations. That means having realized the meaning of those words. The really way to hold the realizational Dharma, the beginning way, is to take vows, to take the vows of a layperson or of a monk, to take the Bodhisattva vows. Actually living in those vows is upholding the realizational Dharma, because keeping the vows is a practice of morality, and it's that which is the basis for the realizations. So this is said to be that kind of dedication to hold to uphold the holy Dharma of scriptural and realizational Dharma. That is said to be one of the most profound, encompassing dedications. As Shantideva said, and Geshe Zopa in Deer Park always used to, this is one of his favorite verses from Shantideva, is that, may the holy Dharma, which is the sole medicine of all sentient beings. The soul, when we talk about that which is beneficial for sentient beings, you might think, oh, yoga, or money, or all sorts of worldly things. The sole medicine that can really alleviate the problems of sentient beings is the holy Dharma. And that has two kinds: the scriptural Dharma, where the teachings are laid out that you can explain and so forth, and the realizational Dharma that you've internalized. So to be able to uphold those, to hold those, and to perpetuate them so that others can, for instance, by keeping the vows, you can transmit the vows to others and therefore uphold the realizational Dharma. And of course, if you make realizations of emptiness, of bodhicitta, and other things, by your instruction, you can lead others into those realizations. Dita Gipe Namka Geweyang. These pristine, virtuous karmas that I have created in this way, up above, all through this prayer, all through the Lama Chopa. In the earlier parts of Lama Chopa, we made offerings and performed the 7 limb puja and made prostrations and requests and so forth. Maybe offered sog. Dusum deshek. Dusum means the sugatas of the 3 times. Dusum deshek. Seche, along with their bodhisattva sons, their offspring. Tamcheki, all of their zepa munlam, so all of their enlightened deeds, zepa, and their munlam, without exception, may I also do the same things. May I give teachings as my gurus, as the Buddhas, as the Tathagatas and Bodhisattvas have done. May I give charity. May I do pujas. May I help people at the time of death. All of these activities and all of their prayers for the future, may I accomplish them just as the Buddhas did. And then finally, De Tule Serab Kuntu Dak, the next verse. de tule, through the power of that, serab kuntu dak, in all lifetimes may I, dak, tekcho kolo shidang midel shing. Midel means never be separated, or not separated. Tekcho kolo shidang midel shing. May I never be separated from the 4 Mahayana wheels. So here it says the 4 Mahayana spheres. You may have received teachings on this before. Maybe you've said it for years and you didn't know what that was talking about. So it's interesting. So the 4 Mahayana spheres are the following. So there's a quotation in the commentary by Nutra Dharma Bhadra. There's a verse of commentary from Sheding, the text by Nagarjuna, I think, letter to a friend, right? Tumpa gyoe yulna nepadang. So to abide in a suitable place, concordant place. Kebu dampa lani tempadang. To rely on holy beings, Kebu Damba. And then the last 2 are condensed into one line. Dakni lemon nonyang sonam gi. So that means lemon, that means ngon means previous karma and prayers of myself. That means may they ripen. And sonam gi means may I be inspired to create virtuous karma. So basically it means to be born, the 4 Mahayana spheres is in all my lifetimes, may I always be born in a place conducive to the practice of Dharma. That means a quiet place without strife, having the attributes that are necessary to develop tranquil abiding and so forth. May I always depend upon holy beings. May there be gurus and other teachers and so forth that I can serve and I can receive guidance from in all my lifetimes. Then through the power of my my previous karma and prayers, may I have this for instance, the ripening of that lifetime, such as the 7 ripening qualities of higher rebirths, which I'll mention in a second. So that's a result of, because of my karma in the past that I'm practicing now, and my prayers, may I have all the right conditions to be able to practice, such as health and resources and so forth. I'll mention those in a second, the 7. And then may I have the enthusiasm to continue happily to engage in virtuous actions. Again, due to my previous practices this lifetime and in previous lifetimes, may I be impelled to be noble, to work for others, and so forth. So in the commentary, he says, to abide in a place where one can increase virtue, which that means the tumpa gura, that means a suitable place. Kebu dampa means a gewu shenan, that means a virtuous friend, to be cared for by them. But also in the previous verse, it said to depend upon, so it means also to serve and to be cared for. They have that symbiotic relationship with a spiritual friend. Then dakli leidan monlam sampo debu lunak yisum gewala toshindu juk, to engage happily in the virtues of body, speech, and mind, which is the fruit of the excellent karma and prayers that I've made in the past. You know, so knowing that karma is infallible, the prayers and karma, virtuous karma that we have created in the past, especially ripening through prayer, bringing about the happiness to engage in virtuous activities of body, speech, and mind. And then saying Ngomar Sonam Gipe, by having created virtuous karma in previous lives, Tori Gyonen Dundang Dempa, to possess the 7 qualities of higher status, of high status. And so what are those? So that different enumerations of that. Sometimes you remember from the teachings on karma, we talk about the 8 ripening qualities, you know, one of which is so controversial, not to be born as a woman, always have a male body. So this is somewhat similar, some overlap, but not exactly the same. It means Riksang, which means good family, high status, to be born in a high family, like Shakyamuni Buddha was born in a, you know, to the kingly caste. Doesn't necessarily have to be that. I sometimes think it means to be born in a noble, a family that has the good qualities that can be inculcated in you, you know, when you learn about responsibility and service and caring for others and so forth. So to be born in a good family. Suk Sewa means to be, or Suk Sang means to be, have an attractive body, because generally, certainly Shakyamuni and other great beings, there was some kind of charisma of being born attractive. If you're like me and you're not attractive, you don't have to think that's so important. Seringba means to have a long life. You know, you're born to a good family, you're attractive, to have long life. Nemepa means to be healthy without disease. You know, some people have debilitating diseases from a very early age or many times throughout their life, but to be healthy. Nemeba. Kelsamba means to be like Kelsang, you know, Alan Wallace's name is Kelsang, right? It means good fortune. To have good fortune, that means to be influential and successful. Nor Chupa means to be wealthy, to have at your disposal, maybe to be born into a wealthy family, but to have easily, to have wealth, physical wealth that you can use for your own, you know, if you want to do retreat, if you want to travel to Bodh Gaya and so forth, if you want to help others, if you want to create monasteries and so forth. Norgyupa. And then Sherab Chewa means great wisdom. These are called the 7 qualities of high status. So by the force of this merit, may we never be parted in all our lifetimes from Mahayana's 4 spheres. So born in an appropriate place, you know, conducive to increasing virtue, to be in a symbiotic relationship with the Guru, to be cared for by them and to serve them due to your previous prayers and karma, to joyfully engage in virtuous activity of body, speech, and mind, and to have the 7 qualities of high status, to be born as a, you know, a high family, attractive, long life, healthy, to be influential or have good fortune, to be wealthy, and to have great wisdom. Those are the 7. So may I never be separated in all my lives from Mahayana's 4 spheres or four wheels. And may I reach the end, may I complete this long journey along the of renunciation, Nejong, Jangsem, Bodhicitta, Yangdak Tawa, means correct view of emptiness. And Rimni means the 2 stages of highest yoga tantra. Rim means stages, like Lamrim. Ni means 2, the 2 stages. Lamgi, Tropa, Tarchin Shok. May I complete this progression, this path, this journey of, renunciation, bodhicitta, perfect view, and the 2 stages, highest yoga tantra, everything included there. So that's the final dedication of this glance meditation. When you do this, if you have time, you could also say the auspicious verses at the end of the Soga offering. So I won't go through those in detail right now, but maybe you could put it up there just through the quality of whatever white virtues there are in samsara and nirvana, may all be auspicious for us to be free here and now from all misfortune and loss, and thus to be a glorious and perfect celestial treasure of temporal and ultimate virtue and goodness. So when you say these verses, you can throw flower petals, or like in the sometimes the lamas have a little bowl of rice that they, particles of rice that they throw, visualizing them as flower petals. May the auspiciousness for the Buddha's teachings to remain long through your centers of Dharma, omniscient Losang Drakpa, that means Lama Tsongkhapa, being filled with hosts of renunciates, yogis, and yoginis, striving single-pointedly to master the 3 pure trainings. That means the higher training of morality, concentration, and wisdom. Having received your blessings, Losang Drakpa, you, Losang Drakpa, from the time of your youth, made request to the supreme Guru deity, his Guru deity Manjushri, may there be the auspiciousness of Losang Vajradhara. So here it's instead of saying Losang Tubang Dorji Chang, it says Losang Dorji Chang, Gitashi Shok. May then the next verse, may our desired endowments swell like a lake in the summer rains. You notice that in Singapore when the summer rains or the monsoon season, the lakes swell. May all our desired endowments swell like that. May we have an unbroken continuity of rebirths with freedom and faultless families, like these 7 qualities to be born in even in an excellent family. May we pass our days and nights with the holy Dharma of Losang Drakpa, and may we delight in the glories of perfection. So I like to think Geshe at Institute of Lama Tsongkhapa used to say, the Larampa Geshis, when they would be in the Larampa class, the highest Geshe class, and in between sessions when they ate together and they spent time together, they would always talk about the Dharma, and they would go over, they would ask each other's questions and refine things. So those are the older students, and even the beginning students, as you learn more of the Dharma, when you eat, may we pass our days and nights with the holy Dharma of Losang Drakpa, of Lama Tsongkhapa. May we debate about them, ask questions, try to refine our understanding. And finally, by the collection of whatever virtues I and others have done and shall do, what we've done in the past lives, this life, and what we shall do from now until enlightenment, may all be auspicious, holy, perfect one, for your body of form to remain in this land, immutable like a Vajra. That's the last verse, right? Or is there another verse? I think it's, yeah, that's the last verse. So this completes our little sojourn, our journey through the glance meditation at the end of Lama Chopa. If you have any final questions, we have a couple minutes left. And this is our last time. I understand that Ken Rinpoche will be teaching, and I'm not sure if Venerable Sangikado is still teaching, but I will disappear for a while. I'll be giving some courses, and you can look up, and if you're interested, and YouTube in October and November for the FPMT Center in Washington, D.C. and the 37 practices. And then in the Raleigh Center, the Kadampa Center in Raleigh, our FPMT Center there on the Heart Sutra and the 8 verses of training the mind, I think. So anyway, anyone have any questions to finish off?
Yes, there's 2 person raised hand. Maybe Sui Kim first. Hold on. Sui Kim again. Sui Kim.
Oh, Sui Kim. Hi, Sui Kim.
Hi. Good morning. Hey.
Yeah.
Okay.
How you doing?
Good. I thought maybe it's good if we could be motivated to study this Lama Chupa prayers. It is said that the Lama Chupa prayer is the particular it's peculiar to the Guru tradition because it incorporates the 3 deities of Yamantaka, Hiruka, and Guru Samaja in its practice itself. And this is in the first part of the Guru Puja. So maybe you could tell us why is that so that in this particular practice it is said be the fastest way to achieve enlightenment?
Oh, I don't know if it's the fastest way, but Lama Tsongkhapa, there's some Nyingma or Kargyu or Sakya would say, oh, what are you talking about? So Lama Tsongkhapa, his own practice was, he took as his particular main yidam, main deity, Guhya Samaja, which is called the King of Tantras for auspiciousness. And at the time of death, it said that he made inner offerings to all of the 32 deities of the Guhya Samaja mandala. And he took as a special deity to overcome obstacles, Yamantaka, because in this degenerate age, there are so many obstacles that can prevent us from completing the path. And he took also the teachings on Hiruka, Chakra Sambhara, but also the 4th deity in that around the center at the top there, the 4th deity is Hevajra because of the auspiciousness of the teachings on inner fire, Tumo, that come from Hevajra. And the Hiruka, of course, especially the teachings on clear light, Yamataka, the teachings, and Guhya Samaja, the teachings on illusory body. So those yidams were particularly his own chosen deities. Also, Lama Tsongkhapa was considered to be the emanation of Manjushri. He took the aspect of receiving teachings from early age and receiving instruction from Manjushri. Yamataka is the wrathful aspect of that, and the special teachings of Lama Tsongkhapa that unified the peaceful and wrathful Manjushris. So at Yamataka's heart, little Manjushri. So that's, in the Gelugpa tradition, it's said that those are the special, the special flavor that Lama Tsongkhapa had. His Holiness the Dalai Lama sometimes teases the other Gelugpas, especially lay people who, like myself, I'm not a lay person, but like myself, although I practice all of those deities to some degree, maybe some of my main practices, some of the other, like Tara or Vajrayogini or something, His Holiness sometimes teases. So the real Gelugpas will study and try to perpetuate the Guhya Samaja. It's said that if the Guhya Samaja Tantra does not exist, this is why he took apparently as his main deity, the Tantras do not exist in their entirety. So it said the longevity of the Tantras depend on the existence of the Guhya Samaja Tantra. So if you have a chance to receive teachings and to practice Guhya Samaja, to study about it, Lama Yeshe, when we first had one of the first Dharma celebrations in Dharamsala, he asked Khenpo Songrinpoche to teach the Guhya Samaja And it was maybe above our heads at the time, but Lama said, he told Song Rinpoche, you know, the Westerners need to have, they want to investigate. So this was kind of like, in order to experience these things, to leave imprints for the future. And some people that were especially, you know, had the karma, they would be able to practice it that lifetime. But to try to leave some imprint of these three main deities, and also He Vajra, you know, Yamataka, Huya Samaja, and Haruka, the Chakra Samvara. So I hope that helps a little bit with that. Someone else
Thank
have a
you.
question? Yeah.
Next is Pun King. Pun King, you
Who's
can
this?
unmute yourself. Pun King. Pun
King.
King.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello. Hello, I'm here.
You can hear you. Yeah. Hi, Venerable George. Thanks for your teaching.
Oh, Pun King. Oh, okay, right.
Yes. My question today is that as there are many ways to analyze, to meditate on emptiness, such as the 4 essentials, the 7-fold reasonings, and so forth.
Right.
In your opinion, is there a best, quotation mark, best routine to meditate on emptiness?
So you did ask that before. I'm sorry I didn't get back to you on that. My mind went elsewhere. All of these, there are a myriad of number of reasonings that can be used. It's said that the practitioners of the Hinayana, let's say the Theravada, they often are limited in their reasonings. They may have, even though it's not explicitly taught in the Theravada canon about, or not emphasized, the real meaning of emptiness. They usually talk about the selflessness of persons, and mainly talk about, from the Mahayana point of view, the gross selflessness of persons. Somehow implicit in some of the Theravada sutras, there is a general understanding of emptiness. But whatever reasonings they have are generally limited. It's said that the special feature of the bodhisattvas is that they would try to understand emptiness by many different reasonings because of the need to remain in samsara for perhaps 3 countless great eons. They need that armor to be able to understand emptiness in all different kinds of situations. So if you can study the various logical reasonings that are given, as many as you can, and try to understand them, that is beneficial. Of those reasonings, generally, the reasoning of dependent arising is said to be the king of reasonings, or maybe you could say the queen of reasoning, if you don't like, it sounds like male-oriented king of reasons. What you can do is, having established emptiness through various reasonings, then understanding to establish dependent arising, that phenomena are empty of inherent existence because they are dependent. And that's when we talked about the Lojong, when we talked about the equality of self and others, we talked about the simple reasoning that all sentient beings want to be happy and want to be free from suffering, and we are exactly the same. Somewhat similar here, because there's a similarity in this sense, that all phenomena, because every phenomena depends on something, whether it depends on previous causes or its parts, because of that dependence, phenomena cannot exist inherently. If they existed inherently, they could not have any kind of dependence on anything else. To really understand that deeply, you have to, I think, you have to establish emptiness through other reasonings, and then approach that, the king of reasonings, because once you understand that, the king of reasonings, that the phenomena are empty of inherent existence because they're dependent arisings, you can take that as your primary reasoning in most situations. So in short, I can't say that any of the reasonings are superior to others other than what Nagarjuna and others call the king of reasonings, dependent arising. But to really appreciate that and to have that gel in your mind as a reason to prove that phenomena are empty of inherent existence, you have to have established emptiness through some of the other reasonings first.
Right.
Okay?
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Yeah. There's one more person, Violet.
Oh, Violet. Yeah.
Yes.
Violet always has a question. Yeah.
Violet, you can unmute yourself.
Thank you very much, Venerable George, for all the teachings. One question I'd like to know basically is that I thought our main practice is for Buddhist and wisdom realizing emptiness. But I was confused. Sometimes someone says that you have to know your Idam deity. So is that important to know one's Idam deity?
Maybe not. So when we were talking about Tantra, the lower Tantras and highest Yoga Tantra, there are various deities. Yidam usually means your own particular, I mean, all of them can be called Yidams, but generally when you talk about your Yidam deity, that means the one that you have particular affinity to because of karma and past lifetimes, a liking for. There are various qualities like this. I remember asking Khadri Trijang Rinpoche, who was the tutor, one of the tutors of the Dalai Lama. He and Linga Rinpoche were kind of like, with the Dalai Lama, kind of like Shariputra and Mahamoggallana, right? The two main disciples. Trijang Rinpoche, we went to him one time and I asked, oh, Rinpoche, what is my deity? Or, what is my yidam or something? And Rinpoche, he said, oh, Vajrasattva, Shakyamuni is for the general teachings. Vajrasattva is for purification. Chenrezi, Avalokiteshvara, is to develop compassion. Manjushri is to develop wisdom. It went like this. And really, at the beginning of our practice, before we enter into highest Yoga Tantra, maybe we don't have one yidam. We may be more interested in Tara because we're a woman, or because we like the energy of that, or Avalokiteshvara because we feel compassion for others. But all of these Kriya, generally in the Tibetan tradition, lay people and monks and nuns would practice various Kriya deities because the vows are not as heavy if you break them. Like if you take highest Yoga Tantra, the vows are much more heavy. Of course, it brings benefits if you keep them, but if you break them, there's the heavier negative results. So to cultivate Chenrezi, to receive initiations of that, to develop and enhance your compassion, Tara, to develop and enhance your ability to help others through activity. She's the enlightened activities of all the Buddha. Manjushri for wisdom and so forth. Vajrapani for power of the mind and so forth. All of those we can consider all of them are yidams as we receive, and we may practice one predominantly for some time. Later, when we enter into highest Yoga Tantra, rather than practicing many, many deities, it's better to choose just one. I think Atisha had said, you know, the Tibetans practice thousands of deities, or maybe it was another, I'm not sure if it was a Tisha, some famous Tibetan Lama said, or Indian Lama said, the Tibetans practice thousands of deities and realize none, whereas those who cultivate one deity, like one yidam, like especially highest yoga tantra, they realize all. So you don't have to have initiations into all of the deities, and which has a shortcoming of having to do those practices every day. You know, some lay people in Dharamsala, you might see that they're doing their sadhanas all day long, and the monks and so forth. Generally at the monastic colleges, the monks and nuns were encouraged to, if they wanted to receive one tantric initiation while they were still studying, and maybe that would become their yidam for some time. So it's not urgent that you choose a yidam deity now. Whatever you have the karma to encounter, maybe through Ken Rinpoche, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, His Holiness, when they offer empowerments and so forth, those would be the best things to take. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Venerable. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Oh, there's
So,
someone
yeah.
who raised his hand or her hand.
Okay.
Do you think you can take one more question?
Yeah, I can take if you have. If you can take.
Okay. SB Wong, you can unmute yourself.
Okay, Venerable, thank you very much for your teaching.
My pleasure.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, just now you mentioned about if you go to Tushita or Amitabha, you don't have the 6 element factors to practice the highest yoga tantra. Is that correct?
It's not stated in any text that I've encountered, but through logic, there are statements in the text that if you're born in certain of even the high bodhisattvas, born in the Pure Land, so that seems to indicate, that means the sutra Pure Lands, such as Amitabha's Pure Land, Tushita, and so forth, that you would you couldn't practice, you would pray to be born as a human in the human realm in order to practice Tantra to achieve enlightenment more quickly. Because in the Pure Land, you could remain there, never encountering any obstacles, but your progress might be a little bit slow for that reason. You're not close to suffering, your compassion may not develop as quickly. Whereas in the some of the tantric Pure Lands, like Vajrayogini's Pure Land, Haruka's Pure Land, you may be able to practice Tantra there. It actually says in the Tantras. So there are different Pure Lands that have different qualities.
I see, okay. Thank you very much for your clarification. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So it's also said in the God realms, it's different than the Pure Lands, right? Pure Lands, you don't have any delusions at all. In the desire realm, God realm, the beings there may not be able to develop renunciation initially in the God realm. If they have a renunciation that they carry to the God realm, they can have it. Or they may not be able to develop, I think in the Abhidharma Kosha it says, one of my friends pointed out recently that you cannot achieve realization of emptiness initially in the desire realm, God realm, because you don't have the urgency that can drive you to realize that, because there's not the same kind of suffering there is in the human realm. So there's a lot of different factors like this involved. Anyway, I want to thank you all for giving me, especially the committee, Chan Hao and all of you, to give me the opportunity to speak about the Dharma for this last 8 weeks, and then the 4 weeks before that. I sometimes think all of you are actually Buddhas and Bodhisattvas giving me the opportunity to, create some merit by talking about the Dharma. If there's been any benefit from this, please dedicate these merits to the great enlightenment of all sentient beings, and seal that dedication with a meditation on the emptiness of the 3 spheres. So I hope that we all meet again soon. And unless there's anything else.
Thank you, Venerable. Thank you so much for the patience, and then I mean, there's a lot of really a lot of knowledge that you have teach us, and we really appreciate on behalf of ABC. Thank you very much. And and also thank you to all the participants who have faithfully attended all the teachings. And if there's anyone who wishes to offer dana to Venerable, I already put the instruction in the chat, or some of you may have already received the WhatsApp message on how to actually offer dana to Venerable. So thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you all. And be safe and enjoy the nectar of Ken Rinpoche, who's going to be sharing his wisdom with you soon. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.